What's up, my people, and welcome back to the channel. My name is Diamond, and this is a follow-up video to my last one on amortization schedules. In that video, we learned how to create one, how to read one, and more importantly, how you can use an amortization schedule to help you develop a game plan to get your car paid off faster. And in this video, we're going to take a look at it from a different angle. We're going to look at car loans, but focus on the interest rate, the term length, and the monthly payment to see how this trifecta works together and the impact it has on the total amount you will pay for your next car. Now, I was going to kick this off by showing you how to calculate your monthly payment from scratch, and the formula looks something like this. But in an effort not to bore you to death, I'm going to let you know you can jump on Google or pull up the App Store, type in loan calculator, and use one of the many calculators that's available for free. And for this video, I'm bringing back two of my favorite characters, Miss Principal and Mr. Extra, from the video, Paying Off Your Car Loan Early, Principal Payments versus Monthly Payments. And I'm introducing a third character, Mr. Desperate. Now, before you get all judgmental, I want you to hold your judgment because I want you to know I've been there, you've been there, or maybe you know somebody who's been there. And in the end, I'm going to share with you a story on someone I know who got into one of these desperate car deals and what they did to get out. So you don't want to miss that. All three of these folks are going to take out a loan for $32,000. Now, I have to stop here because it wouldn't be me if I didn't say the best way to buy a car is with cash, because car payments suck. Buying a car with cash is simple, easy, it's stress-free, and that decision don't follow you year after year after year. But I understand, I see the data, and I see that cars are increasing at a rate faster than most of our incomes are. So a lot of people are choosing to finance their car, which is why I'm making this video. Now, Miss Principal, if you remember, she's about getting out of debt. She's ready to move on with her life and use her money to invest, build wealth, and increase her cash flow, which is all so much more fun than paying debt. So she's going to use the 24-10 rule to finance her car, which I talked about in my video on how to properly determine how much car you can afford. So she's going to put 20% down. Still, she's going to finance $32,000, but she's only going to finance it for 48 months. So let's pull up one of these loan calculators and see what her monthly payment will be. $32,000 financed at 5% over 48 months equals a monthly payment of $736.94. Mr. Extra, on the other hand, he's not concerned about getting out of debt faster. He believes car payments are just a way of life and you'll always have one. So his goal is to get a low monthly payment so that he can have an increased monthly cash flow. So he's going to finance $32,000 at 5% interest. But he's going to spread the payment out over 84 months. And the calculation on that equals a monthly payment of $452.29, which is much cheaper than Miss Principal's $736 payment. But now, let's take a look at the amortization schedule because this is where it gets interesting. Now, when you look at their very first payment, Miss Principal, now her payment is more, so she's paying more towards the principal each month. But the interest is where I want to focus in. Her interest was $133.33. And when you look at Mr. Extra's first payment, he too paid $133.33, which makes sense because their interest rate was 5%. And when you understand that in a simple interest loan, like an auto loan, your interest due for the month is calculated based off the balance, that all tracks. But this does not hold up for very long. If you zoom in and you look a year into the loan, you'll see that October of 2021, 1 year into this loan, Miss Principal is sending $102 to her interest, while Mr. Extra is paying $117. Now look at their balances. Mr. Extra balance is $27,784.37. Miss Principal balance after 1 year payments, her balance is down to $23,953.95. Now, here's a good time to talk about two things that lenders and dealerships don't tell you when you're sitting in the finance office. Number one, TTL plus fees. That's taxes, title, licensing, plus dealer fees. Number two is you have to factor in depreciation. And when you look at these two things and look at these numbers, they tell a different story. Because now, understanding that, you see that this balance of $27,000, you have to remember, Miss Principal put 20% down. Mr. Extra didn't put anything down. So when you look at his balance of $27,748 and you subtract out taxes, title, license, plus fees, there's a good chance that his purchase price of the car was somewhere around $27,000 to $28,000. So a year of making these payments have just brought his car down to the original purchase price of the car. And when you factor in depreciation, the fact that cars do go down in value, there's a very good chance that Mr. Extra is upside down 12 months into this loan. Now, what happens when he decides he wants to get rid of this and get something different? Well, he traded in, roll in a negative equity, and he starts to go deeper and deeper into a hole. Meanwhile, Miss Principal put her 20% down. She's got the thing paid down to $23,000. She probably has positive equity in her car. Now let's fast forward and look 48 months in, because at that point, Miss Principal is done. Her car is paid completely off. Meanwhile, 48 months in, Mr. still has a balance of $15,090 and 3 years left to pay on the loan. So the impact to spread this loan out over a longer term in order to get a cheaper monthly payment looks like this. Miss Principal paid a total of $3,372.94. Mr. Extra, on the other hand, paid a total of $5,991.95, which is more than $2,600 more than Miss Principal paid in interest. And remember,
interest that you pay is a penalty. Interest that you earn is a reward.
Now let's take a look at Mr. Desperate. Now, like I said earlier, hold your judgment, because this guy has fell on hard times. He lost his job unexpectedly, which caused him to miss a few credit card payments, which dropped his credit score 200 points. And he's been without work for a few months. But now he has a job offer on the table. And the only thing he needs to solidify this job is to get a good, reliable car. So he's going to go out and get him a car. He's not going to let this job slip between his fingers because he couldn't get a car. So he pulled into one of these places where everybody's approved, credit score doesn't matter, and he too go out and finance $32,000. Let's look at what his monthly payment is. He finances $32,000 over 72 months at an interest rate of 22%, which makes his monthly payment $804.04, which is high, but with his new salary, he'll be able to make that payment no problem. But let's look into his amortization schedule to see how this plays out. Looking at the first month, you see that he makes his very first payment of $804. $217 goes to the principal, $586.68 goes to interest, which is a lot more than the $133 that both Miss Principal paid and Mr. Extra paid. Now you may be thinking 22% interest, well, that's about 4.5 times more than they were paying. So it's logical that he would pay about 4.5 times more in interest. But remember, your interest due for the month is calculated based off of your balance. And in his case, he's paying more money to the interest, which means his balance is reducing at a slower rate, which is going to cause him to pay more interest, even though he has a shorter loan than Mr. Extra. So when you look at his amortization schedule, you'll see that in the first 6 months, he's paying more interest than Miss Principal paid for the entirety of her loan. And in the first 10 months, he's paid more interest than Mr. Extra paid in the entirety of his loan. As a matter of fact, Mr. Desperate pays more in interest in the very first month than Mr. Extra paid for his car note. And this is not just for the first month. This trend continues for the first 22 months of this loan. Now let's fast forward 4 years, because at that point we know Miss Principal has paid her loan off. She's not thinking about it no more. Mr. Extra had a balance of $15,090. Now Mr. Desperate here in 4 years has a balance of $15,498.55 and 2 years left. Now when you look at that, you may say Mr. Extra and Mr. Desperate owe about the same amount, right around $15,000. And in fact, Mr. Desperate has only 2 years left to pay. Meanwhile, Mr. Extra has 3 years left to pay. But you have to remember, Mr. Desperate's monthly payment was $804. So when you look at how much interest he's paid at the 4-year mark, you'll see that he paid $22,092.28. The total cost of this loan at the end of 72 months is going to be $25,890.60. And that is $22,000 more than Miss Principal made. So you can see that even if you can easily make the payment on this loan, the cost of entry is just too high. $25,000 on a $32,000 loan brings the grand total to $57,890.60. Now, I know a lot of people will say, well, you could just make principal payments and get it paid off early, or you could just refinance it. But here's what you have to realize. When you get into a loan of 22% or a really high interest rate, you are normally dealing with a subprime lender. Subprime lending is really just a fancy word to say rip off. And there's a few ways you can be ripped off. One, you can have a prepayment penalty, meaning if you want to make a principal payment, you actually have to pay an additional fee to pay the car off early. Another thing you could have is, instead of a simple interest loan where your interest is calculated each month and it's based off your balance, they could pre-compute your interest, meaning that when you sign the loan, all the interest for the entire loan is already calculated and added to the amount that you finance. So you didn't sign up for a $32,000 loan, you signed up for a $57,000 loan. And in that case, principal payments don't make any sense because there's no such thing. The interest is already calculated. And you're not going to be able to refinance this loan because you have to think about depreciation. And when you look back at the amortization schedule and see just how slow that balance is reducing, you're going to be upside down in this loan. And the reason you won't be able to refinance it is because you're going to have a very difficult time finding a new lender who is going to finance more than the car is worth. And so you're stuck. But all is not lost. I knew a guy who got into one of these desperate auto loans. And this was years ago. We were young, really didn't understand how credit and car loans work, how interest computes and all that. We didn't know all the stuff that I'm talking about in this video. And this guy, he had been out of work for a while and he finally found a job that was paying him good money. And this job was about 40 minutes away from where we lived. So he needed reliable transportation to get him there. So he went off and went to one of those lots and bought a car. His interest rates was outrageous and his monthly payments was through the roof. He knew he was paying more for this car than he should have. About the only thing he had going for this car was that the car was mechanically sound. It was a good running car. So the way he ultimately got rid of it was he didn't try to trade it in. He did try to refinance it, but that didn't work. The way he got rid of this car was he just sucked it up and made the payments. And he drove this car that he absolutely hated until he had that loan paid off. But here's the good thing. The car ran so good that when he got it paid off, he actually gave it to a family member and they drove the car for another 3 or 4 years. He, in the meanwhile, couldn't wait to get into something different. But when he got his next car, he didn't roll any negative equity into that deal. And because he sucked it up and made these payments on time, he actually built up a good credit score. And so he was able to get a reasonable rate in his next car. He didn't carry any of that old bad experience with him into the future. That's just a memory in the past and a very expensive life lesson. Fast forward 15 years, and today, that same guy is driving a car that he wants to drive and a car that he absolutely loves. So if you find yourself in one of these subprime deals or one of these rip-off deals, don't try to trade the car in, even if you're trying to trade the car in for something cheaper, because that amount that you owe is going to have to come from somewhere. Ultimately, just know you can roll it, fold it, flip it, and kick it down the road. But every time you do, you're digging a hole that's deeper and deeper and deeper. And at the end, you will have to come up with the money to pay it off. So the very best way to get out of one of these deals is to do everything in your power to come up with the money, pay the sucker off, and then put that in your lesson learned registry so that you never make that mistake again. If you want more information on cars and car loans and how to buy and sell cars without hating life, then click on the playlist here in the video. I'll also leave it down in the comments and in the description. Because remember, car payments suck. Now, before you leave this video, give it a thumbs up and don't forget to click that subscribe button. Until next time, I'm Diamond. Peace.